Astro weather for Monday, the 9th of October. So we had a aspect at 8 o'clock this morning that was kind of like an underlying conflict within our emotional state that we would rather ignore. And it was asking us whether we are ready to close out a cycle. So it's the idea and the energy of seeing through a delusion that you might not want to see through, and only being able to see that through your heart space. So then we've got Mercury today also helping us out and telling us a little bit of a story. So from starting at 11:20, there's like this prompt to kind of feel more empowered to make alterations to bringing this dream goal into reality. And so it's going to take us through a few steps today. Mercury making aspects with first Saturn and then Uranus and then Jupiter. So we'll be in this stage where we will be feeling that empowerment to make the change and to make the alterations. And then we're going to come up against, as we're working through that idea, we're going to come up against the Uranus aspect being something will have to change in the idea that we have come up with. So something will have to change, or something will have to adapt, or, there will be like a sort of a stop in that forward motion that you feel like you're making with this plan. And it's going to feel very annoying. And then later on that night, there will be opening up some very good conversation with somebody who can help you out through that problem. So if you start feeling that frustration in the middle of the day, just remember that by the end of today, finding someone or running into someone that you can have a conversation with about this goal is going to be very helpful in order to push forward with it. So at 12:04, there is Mars squaring Pluto. So Mars being in Libra and Pluto in Capricorn in retrograde for one of the last times this week. It's something that you kind of want to avoid, right? So it's wanting to reflect on a decision before you make it, but it's conflict energy. So again, this idea of coming up against something that you might not want to do, or authority coming along to kind of ruin your plans. And this energy can be quite uncontrolled, and it can be very offensive and ruthless, and it can be from a place of jealousy as well, with that Mars in Libra involved. So just be really careful about any decisions you're making there in the middle of the day. Give it a couple of hours to calm down. So it's like, we have we'll also have, because we'll be in that really worked up state, and we could kind of not really have any kind of self-control. So the idea that we could put ourselves into a place to be financially wasteful and to make purchases that we maybe haven't thought about. So if you find yourself kind of impulsively wanting to do something that you haven't thought of before, that you haven't thought through, this is not the time to be doing it. Give it a couple of hours, let that energy settle, see if that's still where you want to be going. It's also kind of the energy of some excessive spicy vibes. So that also could play into it. If you don't have a way to get out those vibes, you could also be quite frustrated. It's also the energy of, somebody who holds power over you in some way. So a boss or a parent, and there being like a temper kind of war aspect between the two of you. And, just the advice being just walk away for a couple of hours and catch your breath before you finish that conversation. Now, one of the biggest aspects happening this week, there are three. The first one happens today at 12:09, and we are looking at Venus moving from Leo to Virgo. So this is a huge shift of energy. So while Venus was in Leo, it sort of taught us what we did and did not want in relationships, how we show up in relationships, how other people show up for us. And when Venus went into retrograde, that really brought up the shadow side of ourselves and of others. So the things that you maybe didn't want to look at in relationships really kind of came up, and we sort of started to figure out what we definitely did not want. So hopefully we've come out of this Venus retrograde period with a little bit more of a clear idea of what we are and are not looking for, definitely what we are not looking for, and how we do want to show up in the relationships that we have. So this is all relationships, this is love relationships, family relationships, friends, business relationships as well. So, and because now with Venus in Virgo, we are a little more cautious and a little more critical about what we are looking for in relationships. So we could find ourselves just kind of working through those finer details in order to achieve these goals. So with ourselves, working through these small details, maybe changing some daily habits of our own in order to show up in the relationships how we want to. We could have also said, goodbye to a lot of relationships that were not meeting the standards that we had figured out that we want to have. So this is a good energy for meeting new people, especially now with the sun still in Libra, because with Venus in Virgo and the sun in Libra, it does allow us a really good brain to kind of be discerning about who we give our energy to. So Libra wanting to form relationships and Virgo being quite discerning, and Venus in Virgo giving us that kind of critical nature. It's quite a good one to kind of work with your intuition and know whether or not that if that connection is for you. Something to be aware of with Venus in Virgo is that healing energy. And so depending on where it is placed in your chart, you could be someone who is attracted to that kind of fixer-upper vibe, and just being aware of that so that you are not connecting to an energy that is that vibe and that is the only reason. Obviously, when we are making connections with people, relationship connections with people, it's okay for you both to still be healing, both to still be evolving, but you both need to be doing that, and it needs to be a reciprocal situation. If it's not, you end up emptying all your cups and having nothing left for yourself. So just being aware of that, particularly if you are 7th house Virgo, just be very aware of that. And so we are really moving that relationship energy from this place of how we show up, thinking of Leo being that kind of ego, how we use our ego creatively, how we show up, how we let the sun shine on us. And we're moving into Virgo, so it is that energy of like moving into a more kind of practical and calm space. And it's that idea of wanting to kind of see the relationship for what it truly is at its core, thinking Virgo is discerning and daily habits, and it's about, those kind of the details, right? So we'll find ourselves, if we have come through this Venus in Leo period knowing what we do not want, then we will be now able to sort of look at the details of what we have built and what it is about that we do enjoy. And, we'll kind of see ourselves starting to express our love in kind of a higher, more divine form. So Leo kind of very external and very like what's on the outside. This is kind of how we express. When we move into Venus in Virgo, it does become a little bit more of a higher divine connection and wanting to be helpful, be supportive, like the underlying kind of feelings, the more depth of the relationship. So we will find ourselves wanting to be around people who do also embody that reciprocal support. So another thing to be aware of is that Venus also embodies a kind of vindictive revenge style of thinking. And when that kind of gets mixed with the Virgo karmic distribution, which is quite high in Virgo energy, you could really start seeing unbalanced relationships shifting or really facing up to the reality of the lack of balance in that relationship. Those things will start becoming very clear, especially with Mars still in Libra and also with the sun still in Libra and all of this Libra energy around. Then we have the moon is going to be squaring Jupiter in Taurus at 155. So this is, it's the energy of like overdoing your pride and abundance and making us sort of overconfident when we are making big decisions. So remembering we had that earlier aspect that can kind of push us into that space. So it's not really a good energy. This is still within in that window. So between like 12 and like 3:30, don't be making any big decisions when it comes to money, okay? And no investing, no gambling decisions, specifically if they are ones that have just come up today, okay? because with this heightened emotional state that this aspect is going to give us, it's going to kind of make us feel like we deserve the royal treatment, and will make it really hard to see the details and if there is going to be any issues with it. Okay, then we have the Sun and Lilith making an aspect at 3:30. So as usual, I will have another video up about the Lilith movement, and I will put the workbook up as well a bit later today. So this is the energy of, the sun will be shining a really uncomfortable light on these newly overturned ideas that we would have had coming up in the past week about our critical natures, our judgmental natures, about where others have judged us, about where we have judged others, about where we have sort of let ourselves down, trying to keep other people happy or trying to appear, a certain way, and trying to uphold that kind of societal view. Okay, so with the sun in Libra, it will kind of be pushing you to see it from the other person's side. And that's going to be very uncomfortable for a lot of us. So it's kind of asking you, what is the overall goal of feeling this energy and seeing it from the other side? And can you start thinking of any steps or plans to work on that energy? And then we have at 6:07 p.m., we have a really nice aspect, which is the sun and the moon. So the sun in Libra and the moon in Leo. So this is a really happy balance of emotions. This is our feminine and masculine energies aligning and working together. So any rational decisions that need to be made after 6 o'clock tonight is a really good way to do that, with our head and heart being aligned, being able to think more logically. This is also a good energy for asking family, friends, and other relationship connections for help if you need help in anything. This is a really good energy for that. It's kind of yes energy. With the sun being in Libra and the moon being in Leo, it's a really nice energy for, going out and meeting people. You'll feel quite proud and, strong, like emotionally, and you'll feel like, you're wanting to get a little bit dressed up. So if you are wanting to go out, tonight is the night. The last aspect of the day, 6:49 p.m., there is a moon and Mars quintile, which is just going to help us from that earlier situation, I think, with Mercury. So all of these new ideas that have come up during the day, this is kind of the time where we will be able to sort of take purposeful steps towards it, and sort of finding a fun way to take action on anything that had come up that was very serious. So that's all for Monday. I will see you tomorrow.